Is it a phone or is it a camera? It's the same old question, and we are trying to answer that in our full review of the Samsung Galaxy K Zoom coming to you right now, not before telling you that this intro footage has been shot with the Galaxy K Zoom. Let's go check it out. Maybe this year Samsung realized that it makes absolutely no sense to abuse the name of the Galaxy S5 flagship, and despite everyone was expecting a Galaxy S5 Zoom, we've got the Galaxy K Zoom. Despite being larger than its predecessor in all measurements, it definitely feels smaller in the hand, due mainly to the omission of a camera grip present on last year's model. Also gone is the tripod mount, and the battery is no longer a slide it in from the side one, but is situated below a plastic battery cover which utilizes the same texture found on the S5. Oh, and the ring around the lens is gone as well. At 200 grams, this is not a light device. Couple that with its bulky form factor and you've got yourself a pretty uncomfortable device to carry around in your pocket. But it's not all that bad. At least it feels good in the hand, well, as good as any other Samsung phone you'll find on the market, and the back texture is miles better than last year's Hyperglaze. In terms of specs, Samsung has made improvements over the S4 Zoom in almost every aspect. We've got a 4.8-inch Super AMOLED screen which is now 720p and looks as good as any other recent Samsung panel with vibrant colors and deep blacks. Of course, the physical home button is found underneath it, flanked by a multitasking and back button to its sides. Sadly, just like last year, a notification LED is still missing, and Samsung doesn't really allow you to use neither the flash nor the focus assist light for that purpose. The rest of the front is business as usual with the earpiece, sensors, and a 2-megapixel front facer, but the back is dominated by the huge Samsung lens. We'll talk more about that in our dedicated camera section later in our review. For now, we'll just mention that the megapixel count has been up to 20.7, while the optical image stabilization and 10 times optical zoom have been kept, at least in terms of numbers on paper. You still have a xenon flash to help brighten up things, and a focus assist light for darker scenes. An Exynos 5260 SoC is powering the device, which is a hexa-core chip, meaning it has 6 cores. There's a quad-core 1.3 GHz Cortex-A7 structure and a dual-core 1.7 GHz Cortex-A15 system. The 2 GB of memory ensure that everything runs smoothly, and the bare minimum of 8 GB internal storage, out of which very little is available to the user, around 5 gigs, ensure that you have to go out and buy a microSD card to expand it. You will need it. The usual suspects include the sensors, accelerometer, gyro sensor, geomagnetic sensor, light sensor, proximity sensor, as well as the NFC, Bluetooth 4.0, Wi-Fi, GPS, and radio supporting 4G LTE depending on your market and frequencies. A 2430 mAh battery and Android 4.4.2 powers everything, but you won't find Galaxy S5 specific features like waterproof construction, heart rate monitor, or a fingerprint scanner. Multi-window, air gestures, and S-Health are also missing from the software side. On top of Android 4.4.2, the K-Zoom is running the same version of TouchWiz that you'll find on 2014 Samsung phones, including the Galaxy S5. Hence, the entire experience is comparable, minus the software and hardware omissions we mentioned earlier, and if you want to know more about that, we invite you to check out our in-depth Galaxy S5 reviews software section. Long story short, the UI is somewhat cleaner with Samsung's new rounded shortcut icons in the notification tray as well as the settings menu, which is now organized under vertical categories and is searchable. Small bits like displaying the last time you've talked to the person you're currently dialing, and Toolbox for a Facebook chat head-like always visible floating shortcut menu are all useful additions to the user experience. If you're buying this phone, you're most likely doing so because of the camera, which is, after all, its main selling point. We snapped a lot of pictures during our time with the K-Zoom under different circumstances, with results varying from very good to satisfying. One of our main complaints about the last year's S4 Zoom was the inability to wake the device with the dedicated camera button and launch it into the camera application. Sadly, that's not been fixed by Samsung. You can wake the phone as usual and launch the camera from the single shortcut on the screen. However, you can launch the camera with the shutter button only if your device is active and awake. Being a camera-centric phone, with some people still arguing that this is really a point-and-shoot, we expected a different camera software. Instead, we just got the same camera UI found on the S5, with a ton of shooting modes you can choose from. We applaud the ability to separately set focus and exposure points, which comes in handy many times. There's also a special mode on the K-Zoom called Pro Suggest, which automatically suggests effects depending on the scene you're currently capturing. Needless to say, you can download dozens of effects from Samsung to complement the cornucopia already found on the device. But aside from the usual modes, there's also a program mode and a manual mode, which is pretty self-explanatory. 27 modes are available to choose from out of the box, out of which you can display 12 of your choice at any time. While having multiple choices is a good thing, clutter and the fact that you will probably never use half of them are not. But it's really up to you. They're there if you want to unleash your creativity. How about the results? The 20.7 megapixel shooter on the K-Zoom delivers very nice results. Images are well balanced, realistic, sharp, and under good conditions, noise-free most of the times. We have a major complaint though. On our particular unit, the far right quarter of the stills snapped lacks sharpness, almost like a special faded out blurred effect was applied. We're guessing it's a lens issue because it tends to go away once you start using the optical zoom. But then also some of the light goes away as well thanks to the variable aperture range of 3.1 to 6.3, meaning zoomed in pictures will probably be darker. Exposure and white balance are handled well, and with 20.7 megapixels there's a lot of information you can crop into. Since there's no ring around the lenses anymore, you can either pinch the screen or use the volume rockers on the side to activate the 10 times optical zoom. You no longer need to move in close to your subjects, and the results are pretty impressive both in terms of shooting far away subjects or in creating nice bokeh effects. Low light sensitivity is also good, though pictures tend to be warmer than those shot under regular circumstances. We have no major complaints about the xenon flash, which is really strong enough to brighten up the scene easily. Our biggest concern though is the aforementioned blur on the right side of the frames. While it's not something you can't live with, if you care about your stills, it will bother you. That blur is also present on the same right edge of the frame while shooting video, zoomed out. Otherwise, the camera is capable of recording good-looking videos both outdoors and indoors, and the ability to zoom in on the fly optically, while you'll have to learn to live with the sound of the lens zoom motors in your videos, is great. After more than a week using the K-Zoom, we can tell you that our battery concerns from the initial unboxing and first impressions video were spot on. The 2430 mAh battery is simply too small for this device. Prepare to run out of juice by the end of the day, even if you use it as a regular smartphone. Open up the camera app and shoot your way through the day, like Samsung wants you to do, and you'll have to recharge halfway through or replace the battery with a fully charged one. We have no complaints on the performance side of things though. We have experienced no lag or hiccups while performing day-to-day activities whatsoever. These include phone calls, texts, emails, chats, social media, music and video streaming, navigation, and document editing. You can also play graphic-intensive games without a problem. Need for Speed Most Wanted ran without problems, though the battery was depleting fast. Call quality and signal strength are not stellar, but they're not on our complaints list either. The phone delivers average results in line with most of the smartphones you'll find on the market. We're a bit disappointed by speakerphone performance though, regardless if we talk about phone calls or multimedia. With such a bulky form factor, Samsung could have equipped the K-Zoom with a more capable speaker. The fact that it's backfiring doesn't help either, but luckily the speaker is positioned on the top so you won't cover it up with your hand in portrait mode. And when it comes to the battery, we'll just have to reiterate our thoughts. It's too small for such a device, but that's the price you have to pay for trying to keep the form factor at a decent size while packing capable hardware and a powerful camera inside. We had a lot of complaints last year with the Galaxy S4 Zoom. Needless to say, most of these are on our 2014 K-Zoom list as well. While Samsung has definitely improved the specifications on paper, it has still not addressed some important aspects like the LED notification or the simplest, no-brainer capability of waking the phone into the camera app with the camera button. That being said, we're still not sure we're able to answer our fundamental questions about this device, but we'll try our best. Is it a phone? Yes, it definitely is a smartphone, and a rather capable one at that, being able to handle most of today's tasks without a problem. Is it a camera? It surely is, and a good one. Who would buy it? The person who doesn't care about added bulk, is not a spec head, but rather a casual smartphone user, is relatively light on using the phone, and cares a lot about his or her on-the-go photography. Why? Well, You tell us why you'd buy or skip the Samsung Galaxy K Zoom in the comments below. I've been Anton the Nagy. You've been watching Pocketnow's full review of the Samsung Galaxy K Zoom. Thank you very much for that. You can follow me on Twitter at Anton the Nagy and follow Pocketnow on all the usual social media channels. Till next time, stay safe.